Hello, I'm Heather at Umi Nami Farm, and it's October 6th, 2023, and we just want to give you a little update. We are totally into fall mode now. We actually just finished taking out our eggplants and peppers. We're still harvesting cucumbers, but as you can see, the plants are looking really tired. I mean, the thing with plants is like they'll just keep on going. They'll just keep on trying as long as they can. So you can see here, for example, in the midst of all this, old leaves, there's still shoots of new growth. So they're still trying to make cucumbers, but it's definitely a lot fewer than before, and they sometimes have weird shapes or things like that. And so in the box program, you'll probably be seeing less and less of these summer type things and more of some fall stuff, which I will show you shortly. All right, but I also wanted to talk about my favorite subject, which is cover crops. So maybe let's head to the field and look at that. So last year, the really challenging thing was that we didn't have any meaningful rain until something like October 23rd. That meant that at this time of year, everything outside was still dry as a bone. It was not, I didn't want to plant cover crops because it was too dry to till and there was no moisture to germinate them anyways. But this year, thank God, we've had some really nice bouts of rainfall followed by sunshine, bouts of rainfall followed by sunshine, 2 or 3 rounds of that. And so in most parts of the farm, it's moist enough to plant cover crops. And you can actually see this one here. This is there's rye. The vetch hasn't come up yet, but you see the rye coming up here already, which was, I'm trying to think now, I think about 2 weeks ago that we planted, something like that. So to have this kind of cover crop growth already in early October is really hopeful for being able to have some solid vegetation cover on the soil during the winter rains. This will continue to be a major task this week and in the coming weeks to make sure that we get cover crops onto all of the bare fields for the winter. But it's a massive success that we've already got so much ground covered, literally ground covered. The last time we were in this field was on the other side over there. I was talking about how we were actually using a sprinkler so we could wet the soil enough to prepare a mound for growing some winter brassicas. I know it's probably hard to see from here, but you can kind of see, you only really see some plants growing down that way, and the rest looks almost bare. That's partially a moisture problem, made it hard to germinate the crops we were trying to grow. But the other bigger problem was that the raccoons actually came along and dug up almost everything we planted. Because that was the one moist area in the midst of all the dryness, and they like to go looking for worms or whatever it is they like to eat. And so the only thing that survived was those ones there. We did re-sow the rest of that row, but the seedlings are still pretty small. One of the things we'll have to go do is thin them out and see if we can just give them some encouragement to actually get big. But it is what it is. But anyways, like I said, the big success here being the cover crop, and hopefully those other guys, the cash crops, will grow eventually. So speaking of fall crops, we finally have a new batch of kale. Some of it's in the field behind Jim, who's on the camera there. But what I wanted to point out was this field actually, because we didn't sow this ourselves. This was actually just back in, I want to say August, I think it was August. We had like a little bit of precipitation, just enough that I kind of dared to till some weeds under. And in a previous year, we had a kale crop here, which went to seed and scattered the seeds everywhere because I didn't get to them in time. But the thing is, what happened is all those seeds came up with just that little tiny bit of moisture that they got from the rain. And so what we just did is a few of us went through the bed and just kind of thinned out all those seedlings so that they'd be roughly the distance apart that we would normally plant them. And now we've got this huge, beautiful bed of kale that, like I said, we didn't plant this. All we did was come along and thin them. And so, thank goodness for things that grow all by themselves. So it's not time for haksai yet, but they are growing. We planted these guys a few weeks ago, and we're hoping that we will have Chinese cabbage in November. We'll see how it goes. This particular variety is a slower variety that will probably be ready a little bit later than that, but we have the early variety that will hopefully be for November in another greenhouse. These guys, the growth, as you can see, is actually pretty patchy. I pulled up some of the more poorly growing ones, and one of them had cabbage maggot, another one of them had symphyllins, which I talked about in a couple earlier videos. some more investigation might be warranted to see if we can figure out how to prevent. As you see, some seedlings don't look quite so happy, but there's lots of beautiful ones, and the ones in the other greenhouse are also looking really nice. And so, like I said, hopefully Haksai is on its way. Let's actually just walk one step over with my little friend here to the next greenhouse and take a look at that squash. We had a really lovely squash harvest this year, and the farm workers like really worked hard to get them planted, get them harvested. The work's not over yet. We still need to finish wiping them. What we do is we wipe them both with water to get off any dirt, and also with an organic apple cider vinegar, just to you know, help make the surface good for storage. And then we'll be moving them into an indoor location for winter storage, because they're not going to do okay in the greenhouse with the frost in the winter and stuff like this. But I want you to see all this squash. Like, this squash came from, I'll have to crunch the numbers again. It was between 350 and 400 squash plants. But here we have this long block of pallets full of kabocha squash, more kabocha squash here, and then the next one over we've got a ton of delicata. And we're really happy because in the previous couple of years we had a lot of scarring on the squash for some reason. This year there's almost no scarring. Mostly the skin is in very good condition, so we're really hopeful that that will stay and we'll be able to provide some really beautiful squash the whole year. We are starting to sell kabocha squash now, so you should start seeing it in the box program. And I don't know at what point it will get to Fujiya, but you know, you're going to start seeing squash becoming available through the farm. So I think on that note, I'll probably wrap it up here. But I just want to say thank you for joining us again, and it's been more than a year now since we started doing these videos. It's been a really fun way to keep in touch with you guys and share what's happening at the farm. Please do let us know if you have any requests for what you would like to see in these videos. We'd really love to hear about that and see if we can incorporate that. But whether or not, thanks for joining us, and see you next time. Hey you, I'm so glad you didn't try to catch that bird.